G'day guys, back with the Circle, and today let's talk about the Heroes, Heretics and a Squirrel preview that happened on Twitch last night. Now, I did watch some of the Twitch stream. I find it a little bit cringe-inducing personally though, but that's just me. So, consider it painful that I had to sit through it for everyone. Anyway, what do I think of these new releases? Okay. Let's start with these not high elves. I quite like the Corinthian style helmets. It's very much like an ancient Greek phalanx style helmet and armor. Not really sure though about the practicality of the armor. Now again, it's high fantasy, therefore the rules of common sense don't really apply, but for those who are interested, there's an obvious lack of visible armor underneath the clothing. The fact that they're wearing such long robes is not very practical, but hey, high elves always have, so we're not going to judge that. On the pauldrons, they have a sort of bessigue hanging down in this lamellar plate. That is to say, they've got segmented scale armor hanging down underneath their shoulder pads to protect the inside of the armpit. Not really a necessary feature, because that was armor that was traditionally on a knight because it was a weak spot in their full plate. Well, these guys aren't wearing full plate and have a lot of exposed areas, so it doesn't really make a difference. They don't really need that armor, probably. But again, that is not me nitpicking, that's just explaining the armor to those who may be curious, versus the fact that it's high fantasy and it doesn't really matter at the end of the day. Here we have the floating armor. I actually really like this concept, and this is something that you probably couldn't have done with hand sculpting. So clearly it is clearly showing the improvements you can potentially make with 3D sculpting software as opposed to hand sculpting, and shows the benefits of it, as opposed to the negatives, which I've mentioned many times, just basically people don't restrain themselves on what they can do. Personally, I really like this design, and it does show that there are in fact greaves and sabaton underneath the actual loincloths of the elves. This whole twin swords thing seems to be a recurring theme and motive in the army, but yeah. Cool, some tokens and some dice and stuff, you know, the normal things you've come to expect with these releases. Makes you wonder though what's going to happen with the traditional style of high elves, or if this is all they've got for the release. I mean, we do know there is a new sort of weird looking Teclis type dude on a floating rock in the sky. Yeah, not sure how I feel about that one. You know, I'd be keen to see this as a full army. I mean, these spearmen look beautiful, but alright. Blood Bowl, we have a tree man. And there's also an alternate version of the tree man who has a squirrel on him. How cool. Yeah, it's Blood Bowl. It's fun. Cool. Alright, the meat of the story. 2 new Praetors for the Word Bearers. A Terminator Armored Praetor and a Power Armored Praetor. I have some huge problems with these. Not just because I'm salty old Macca, but because these just don't fit what we've already got. I look at these and I think, oh, those are 40k models. They do not look like Horus Heresy models. And the big reason I bring this up is that Horus Heresy Praetors and characters on the whole feel like they would fit straight into the Great Crusade. That you look at them and you're like, oh, this could be a pre-heresy, this could be in the middle of the heresy, this could be straight after the heresy, perhaps. If you look at Amon of 1,000 Suns, nothing about him suggests that it has to happen during the heresy. If you look at the Space Wolves Praetor, the White Scars Praetor, the Blood Angels Praetors, none of them, I mean, they're all mostly loyalists, but none of them suggest that, oh, they have to be late in the heresy, even the Night Lords ones. So, when you look at these guys, these don't look like they would fit in a pre-heresy army. Just the large snarling demonic belt buckle on the Terminator, the flaming braziers. I mean, have a look at this 40k Dark Apostle. This model is a full-blown chaos-worshipping chaplain. Full-blown, don't get any crazier than this. And he doesn't really look that dissimilar to these guys. He's got the fire and the candles and stuff, and they've got the fire and the candles and stuff. So, I mean, they've got the weird-looking demonic sword in the hand of the guy with the plasma pistol, and none of that works for me. I mean, let's go look at some previous Wordbearer models and just sort of get this point home. So, out of our Wordbearers range, we've got Erebus and Ferrum. So, let's have a zoom in here. So, Erebus, the High Chaplain, the highest ranking crazy man in this legion. He's pretty restrained when you actually look at his armor and you compare it to these guys. These guys, their armor is covered in little runes and stuff. Erebus, he's got a few runes, but mostly his armor's pretty blank. That's a stock Mark IV backpack he's got, with the little skull in the back of it instead of a vent. He's got some like little bits of cloth or robe hanging from his armor with all scripture written on them. He's got some little bas reliefs carved into his armor. Yeah, that's a guy who's supposed to be full-blown chaos worship though, prior to the heresy beginning. And yet you look at these guys. I don't know. But let's move on from him, who's again an extremist. This is Ferrum, who is obviously the second in command of the Wordbearers Legion. He's pretty plain looking, and again, this is a guy who is a full-blown chaos worshipper. Was Lorgar's adoptive father on his homeworld of Colchis, and a demon worshipper, that kind of thing, with the assault on Kelth against Gilliman and the Ultramarines. This is a badass. And yet look at his Terminator armor. He looks like an old-fashioned wordbearer. He's got the grey power armor, he's got the book iconography. Yeah, he has a little bit of scripture hanging down from the belt buckle, and a little bit of symbolism carved into the shoulders and the shins. But then compare him to this Terminator, whose entire armor is absolutely covered in the stuff. You know, it just... one is far more excessive than the other. And again, this is the first captain of the Wordbearers, the second in command of the Legion. And that's how ostentatious his armor is compared to this guy. I mean, look at this. Compare the two. I really like the Ferrum model, by the way. I really love the claws and the fact that because he's a regular human that's been turned into an Astartes, the Terminator armor doesn't work for him the same as others. I don't know if I've spoken about the model in the past, but if I go to the 3D view, you can actually see his legs are in the back of the armor, like he's almost wearing power armor and being strapped into the Terminator armor, like a much better version of the 40k Centurions. Just thought I'd point that out, because that's a really cool factoid. So, they could have gone with his approach, gone with that style of armor, the Ferrum style of armor, and essentially copied that, given it the war gear of this character, and yeah, it would be really cool. But this here, this screams late heresy chaos trader. Fully embraced the Wordbearer Dark Path. That makes it especially hard if you're playing Loyalist Wordbearers, which there are a lot of people that do. You can't play Loyalist Wordbearers and use these models. They just won't fit. The scripture, that kind of thing, no. So, let's look at some other Wordbearers again, just to build some context here. So this is Zardu Layak. This guy literally is possessed by demonic energies and the Dark Gods, and is not allowed to remove his mask, his chaos-imbued mask, and is followed by units of possessed. And yet, look how much iconography is actually on his armor. Yeah, there's pretty much nothing. There's hardly anything carved into the surface of the actual armor. And remember, this is one of Erebus's chosen dudes. Okay, one of the high-ranking, demon-worshipping, demon-summoning, demon-possessed sort of guys. And it speaks for itself, doesn't it? Even the smoke and fire coming out of his little Crozius there, it's pretty restrained. It's pretty restrained when you look at it. Again, compare that to what you're seeing over here. The fire and the smoke coming out of this Crozius it's just dialed up to 11 there. These big, very soft-edged flames. Doesn't look good at all. And again, Zardu, insane man. Not a typical Astartes. And then, of course, we get to some sort of... These are the Ashen Circle. They're Legion-specific destroyers that go around, torching books and libraries and destroying the knowledge of races that are conquered by the Wordbearers. And yet, look at their armor and their style. Could you imagine them fitting into the same army as these guys? I can't. They're just completely different styles of armor. If the character on foot, the Praetor on foot here, had... maybe you could get away with the same backpack, the same weaponry, but you combined it with one of these bodies, that would probably be a really good looking Praetor. It would have that Wordbearer look, it would have some of that cool iconography, the books, the actual shoulder pads of the Wordbearers, the little bits of parchment, instead of this here, which is, like I say, it's a Chaos Space Marine. It's a 40k miniature masquerading as a 30k miniature, in my opinion. So in short, I really don't like them, and hopefully I've demonstrated why I don't like them. These are not models that would fit into a Loyalist army, which is something you generally want out of generic Legion Praetors, or generic Legion characters. The other thing is that, they're too far down the road. They're way too far down the road. You couldn't use these guys as early heresy, and they stick out more than the actual named characters do, because you look at these named characters, and if you put these guys next to these guys, who do you think people are going to sort of gravitate towards visually? I think they're just too much. Too much. Take the Terminator, cut the brazier off his back, get rid of the power maul that no one wants. He could count as a Paragon Blade. Anything counts as a Paragon Blade. That's the beauty of the wording of the weapon. But remove most of the runes that have been carved into his armor off him. Leave it up to people to put them on themselves with the decal sheets. You would get a much better looking Terminator out of it. And the guy in the power armor, yikes. He has a lot going on, even compared to, say, a Chaplain. I'd be interested to see what his helmeted option is. Hopefully he would get a helmeted option. We'll see. Alright, Middle Earth. What have we got here? We got two Ranger characters, Angborn and Mablung. I believe these are the guys that actually captured Frodo and Sam, if I remember correctly, and brought them to Ferrum here. Very minor characters, and this is what I would call clutching at straws, because these are not minor heroes, these are just two dudes that were working for Faramir, and they just ended up with this job of, bring Frodo over here, whatever. They weren't his captains or anything like that, they were just some rangers. That's not what the game is really screaming for, but, what would I know? It's clutching at straws to me. We got the Angels of Death trailer. Does zero for me. And I should clarify my stance on a lot of these 40k inspired movies that people have been fan making at the moment. They're not bad by any stretch of the imagination at all. They just do nothing for me, because they're not personally what I look for in a story. But if you enjoy them, that's perfectly fine, and like I said, I'm not saying they're bad. They're just not what I'm personally searching for. I don't care for fast-paced action, which is what this Angels of Death trailer is all about, with strike cruisers absolutely zooming past hive ships, and the faster you make a gigantic object like a strike cruiser, a battle barge, Emperor-class battleship, whatever, move, it starts to actually reduce its scale visually. Because these are such gigantic objects, they should be ponderous and slow in relation to other objects. I mean, they're still moving incredibly fast, but you remember, if it's an 8 kilometer long object, even if it's covering its own body length every second, that's still moving very fast, 8 kilometers a second, you know? By the time you're talking 420 kilometers in a minute. So, something to put into perspective there. And unfortunately, they're not moving their own body length in a second, they're moving like multiple body lengths. So they're moving too fast for me. Makes it too fast paced, I should say. I don't know whether they're trying to simulate a pitched battle in the 40k universe or something. The weird uses of colour doesn't work for me. But I'm not saying it's bad, just it's not my cup of tea. If I have to pick a sort of action-y movie, I'll pick something like Aliens, Terminator 2, Mad Max Fury Road, something with strong visuals, very good choice of colour and tone, like Terminator and Aliens. Both James Cameron films have a lot of blue tones to them, whereas like Blade Runner 2049 has a lot of like teals and pinks. Mad Max Fury Road has a lot of those strong oranges, contrasting with the dark metals of the vehicles. Fuck, I love that movie. Yeah, that sort of stuff really appeals to me. This, yeah, whatever. My favourite 40k cinematic's probably still the Dawn of War 1 intro. Yeah, that thing just nailed it for me. For someone who looks like she's been in combat because of the blood running down her forehead, she has very clean paws. My paws don't even look that clean after a day in the factory. And this is Astartes. Is this an Astartes? Is this the Inquisitor? I'm not sure. I hope it's not an Astartes because he doesn't look like an Astartes. A Space Marine is grotesque looking to a regular human, because they're being grown beyond what a human should look like, and they have a ridiculously chiseled Robert Zadar jawline. For those who don't know who Robert Zadar is, he was an actor, played a villain in a lot of 80s movies, was in Samurai Cop, Tango and Cash, Maniac Cop, and he's sort of renowned for having this gigantic jawline. I think that was something sort of similar to that, Astartes. The way they're described in a lot of books, they're not described as being very handsome. And this guy looks like, yeah, he'd just be any sort of fit dude with a shaved head. So if it isn't Astartes, it could be an Inquisitor, maybe. I don't think Inquisitors have rank studs bonded into their skull like that, but it could be wrong. Yeah. Ethereal Stern, and a Harlequin dude, Keegnil, I don't care about the names, I don't like the models. She has typical gigantic base syndrome that we've been talking about lately. She has the face of a woman who's been beaten with a 2x4 plank of wood. And he looks like every bad cosplay I've ever seen of a dude who thinks he's cool, carrying 2 swords crossed over behind his back, all his bathroom tiles float up into the air. I got nothing positive to say, but they're not something I would buy anyway, even if they looked really good. So it's my opinion here is totally meaningless. I don't care. I just don't care. More Psychic Awakening is cool. Games Workshop, if you want to buy virtual vouchers from them, they'll give you, for every £50 you spend, you're going to get an extra £5 for free. I think they should just do a price drop. That would be even better. but I'm Australian and biased. So, yeah, overall, very mixed feelings. Like I said, I like the High Elves a lot. These two Wordbearer guys, they're just 40k miniatures, they're not 30k miniatures. I don't know who designed them. I'm not feeling it. I'm really curious what other people think of them, though. Do you think I've completely overreacted and that these perfectly suit the 30k aesthetic? I think my main point that these just would not work in a Loyalist 30k army, though, for Wordbearers. I think that's probably the strongest point. I don't hate them. I think they would look fine, like I say, in a 40k army. Just not, especially not early war. Maybe mid-war. Horus Heresy, maybe. Yeah. Hey, Mr. Tree Man. You're cool. And yeah, interesting High Elves. So I'm back with the Outer Circle. Hope you all enjoyed this. I'm in a slightly grumpier mood than ordinary. I was working on a machine on Thursday night at the factory, and as I was checking the heater elements, another maintenance guy undid a pipe of pressurized plastic, which then sprayed molten plastic over my face, which is quite painful, and it's healing up, but probably 2 inches above my left eye to 2 inches below it is molten at the moment, which kind of sucks, but it is healing. So hopefully back to normal soon and the swelling will go away. My advice is don't let people spray you in the face with molten plastic. And for people who dislike me, I guess you got your Christmas wish. I'm Mac with the Outer Circle. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you all next time. Maybe I'll even put a picture up of something later to show the damage.